Today, we are jumping straight into something that, well, it's the engine room of high performance and, frankly, low stress.
Hmm?
Managing expectations,
Exactly. And we're not just talking about project plans here. This is about the language, the culture, and the real-world challenges of setting boundaries.
especially when you're operating in English, which can add a whole other layer of, cultural nuance.
That's our mission for you today. We're trying to distill some really actionable strategies for defining those boundaries and maybe the hardest part, mastering the professional no.
Right. And if you can nail expectation management, you're not just being efficient, you're building trust. It's that process of setting, agreeing, and then reliably meeting what you promised.
To build that trust, though, you have to start by challenging assumptions. It's not enough to just list what you think someone
You
expects.
have to actually visualize the potential roadblocks, right?
Mhm.
The behaviors and misinterpretations that could happen.
Yes, especially when you have people from different backgrounds looking at the same request.
But I have to ask, isn't planning a plan B, C, and D for every little thing just bureaucracy? I mean, how do you stay agile?
It feels like it, but it's necessary because expectations are never static. They shift. You need to be able to pivot based on feedback or, sudden changes.
And you can't do that if the scope is all over the place.
Exactly. So that's where managers have to control the boundaries, set clear milestones, agree on performance measures right up front. It prevents those little misunderstandings from derailing the whole project.
We hear that famous founder mantra all the time, move fast and break things. But the sources we looked at are pretty clear.
Oh, they are.
Under-delivering is almost never forgotten. So the better strategy, especially with new stakeholders, is to under-promise and then over-deliver.
Absolutely. That consistency, just always meeting that minimum acceptable level, that's what builds the foundation of trust. Overachievement is what builds the loyalty.
The sources point to McDonald's as a great example of this.
Classic one, yeah.
Their trust isn't built on making the world's best burger. It's built on rarely, if ever, failing to deliver a predictable, acceptable meal and service every single time.
That's meeting the expectation. The loyalty comes from the over-delivery, when the restaurant is exceptionally clean or the service is much faster than you expected.
And that brings us to the really hard part. All this planning falls apart if you can't say no to a request that pushes you too far.
Which is where the language really matters. So we've got 4 key techniques here.
Okay, so let's say there's no time to soften the blow, and any ambiguity is a huge risk. What's the emergency phrase?
First technique, be clear, concise, and specific. Direct language is your friend here. Something like, every hour of my time is planned and I have a strict agenda, therefore I regret I cannot support in any way.
Wow, that is direct. No room for misunderstanding there. What's next?
The second is the sandwich approach. This one's a bit friendlier.
I've heard of this,
Mhm.
but doesn't it run the risk of sounding a little fake if you use it too much?
It can if it's not genuine. The key is to start positive, state the refusal clearly, and then show you appreciate the situation. For instance, Jane, thank you for thinking of me. Unfortunately, I'm already overcommitted. I know how important this is, and I'm sorry I can't support.
Using their name helps, I imagine.
Immensely. It shows you're paying attention.
Okay, and what about for cultures where a direct no is just too sharp?
That's the third technique, saying no without no. You use softening words, phrases like unfortunately, regrettably, or sadly. It just creates that little bit of professional distance.
So sadly, I can't join the meeting instead of just I can't,
Precisely. And that leads to the final and maybe most important technique.
which is
Never just close the door. Always try to suggest an alternative. Don't just stop the conversation, redirect it. I'm not available now, but I could definitely help in 3 weeks. Would that work?
So to quickly summarize that toolkit, use people's names, always say thank you, and use sorry with confidence to soften the refusal.
Right. And that leaves us with a final thought for you to consider. We focused a lot on mastering no, but what happens when you've already said yes and now you have to reverse it?
Oof, that's a tough one.
It is. The sources say it's incredibly difficult. To save that relationship, you need a sincere apology and a sincere explanation. So the question is, how do you prepare that context before you ever have to use it?